Harvard professor Avi Loeb says aspects of these images, including the brightness around the object and its unusual trajectory, suggests it's not natural. Instead, he argues it could be alien technology. You heard that right. So, does this mean ET is real?
In 2017, when the first interstellar object, Oumuamua, sailed through our solar system, it shattered our assumptions about what was out there. It was cigar-shaped, metallic, reflective, and it accelerated away from the sun without any visible propulsion. For most scientists, the oddities were chalked up to exotic but natural processes. For one scientist, Avi Loeb,
planets, it arrives closest to the sun when the Earth is on the opposite side, so we can't observe it when it's able to make a maneuver.
It was something more, a possible piece of alien technology. His suggestion sparked ridicule, and yet it stuck. 2 years later, the comet Borisov arrived, looking far more like what astronomers expected. An icy, dusty interstellar body venting gas as it streaked by. Case closed, many thought. Oumuamua was strange, yes, but it was a fluke. Then came 2025, and with it, 3I Atlas. Atlas was bigger than both Oumuamua and Borisov combined. 7 miles across, a true giant. Hurtling into our solar system at 130,000 miles per hour, its sheer size made it impossible to ignore. But it wasn't just its size that drew attention. From the very beginning, Atlas refused to behave like a normal comet. Its trajectory was eerily precise, lining up with the orbits of Mars and Jupiter in ways that seemed astronomically improbable. NASA even partnered with Google to feed the data into advanced AI, and the machine flagged Atlas's path as low probability natural. In plain English, its motion looked less like randomness and more like intention. Then came the flare. In January 2026, Atlas's brightness suddenly surged by 301%. It didn't gradually brighten as a comet would when sunlight heated fresh ice. It jumped overnight, as if someone had flipped a switch. And when astronomers analyzed the light, they found something even stranger. No chemical signatures. Normally, comet flares are full of fingerprints. Cyanogen, carbon dioxide, carbon chains. But Atlas's flare had none. Just clean, unbroken light. That was the moment whispers started. Was Atlas really a comet? Or was it something else? NASA's official stance never wavered. It's a comet, they repeated. A large one, an odd one, but still natural. But behind closed doors, even NASA insiders admitted the data didn't make sense. Leaks spoke of sharp edges in processed images, thermal emissions that looked regulated, radial structures faintly visible beneath the blur. And now, Avi Loeb has stepped back into the storm. In early August, Loeb's team announced that they had obtained and processed 7 new images of Atlas. Not guesses, not theories, images. Some captured with ground-based observatories, others sourced from collaborations with colleagues around the world. Enhanced, clarified, and compared with the earlier flare data, the images confirm. The third is thermal, highlighting hotspots that don't scatter randomly but fall into a grid-like pattern. The fourth and fifth images are the most dramatic. They capture Atlas mid-flare. The light doesn't climb smoothly, it pulses, spikes and drops, timed in intervals. Not weather, not ice, but modulation. Light that looks eerily like a signal. The sixth image shows a faint halo, as if a translucent sphere surrounds the main body. A sphere within a sphere. The same geometry that whistleblowers have whispered about in Voyager data for years. And the seventh, the one that made headlines, it shows a sharp triangular shadow across Atlas's surface, cast as though sunlight struck an angled structure hidden beneath the ice. A clean line where there should only be chaos. Loeb didn't just release the images, he released the timing. The fifth image, the flare pulse, peaked on October 3rd, 2025, the exact day Atlas passed just 18 million miles from Mars. And the modulation? It aligned perfectly with the geometry between Atlas, the Sun, and Mars. If the flare was a transmission, Mars was in the perfect spot to receive it. Earth, meanwhile, was on the far side of the sun, blinded. NASA has remained silent. No confirmation, no denial, just silence. But Loeb was direct. These images confirm Atlas is not random debris. It is not behaving like a comet. The probability that it is natural is collapsing. For the scientific establishment, these 7 frames are dynamite. For Loeb, they are vindication. And for the rest of us, they are a warning. Because if Atlas isn't a comet, then it is something far stranger. And it has just confirmed what many feared all along. When Avi Loeb released the 7 images of Atlas, many assumed they would be blurry, vague frames open to interpretation. But what shocked the community was how precisely they matched what observers had already suspected. Each one corresponded to a piece of Atlas's puzzle. And together, they told a story that no longer looked like coincidence. Image edge. The first image is subtle but powerful. It shows Atlas's limb, the curved line where its surface meets space. But instead of a perfectly rounded arc, one segment appears flat, like a shaved edge. Natural comets are irregular, yes, but their outlines are blurred by gas and dust. This was sharp, a flat line where there should only be curves. Independent analysts confirmed the edge wasn't a processing artifact. If the image is real, then part of Atlas isn't natural at all. Image 2. The second image shows faint lines radiating outward from the object's center, like spokes on a wheel. Some dismiss them as streaks from telescope. Image 3. The thermal grid. In infrared, Atlas glows with hot spots. Normally, these would scatter randomly as icy jets vent heat in unpredictable patterns. But in Loeb's third image, the hotspots form a loose grid, aligned, regular, a thermal map that looked more like panels or modules than geysers of ice. If natural, it's a configuration no comet in history has displayed. If artificial, it makes perfect sense. Regulated heat dispersal across surfaces. Images 4 and 5, the flare pulses. These are the most controversial. Captured during Atlas's 301% flare in October 2025, the light curve doesn't rise smoothly. It pulses, peaks and dips, spaced at intervals. When Loeb's team ran statistical tests, they found ratios close to prime numbers, 3-2, 5-3, 7-5. In radio SETI, prime intervals are the gold standard for artificiality, a universal signature. Math written in light. Skeptics argue the pulses could be telescope noise, but 3 different observatories recorded the same modulation. Random error doesn't repeat across continents. And the timing? The pulses peaked on October 3rd, the very day Atlas skimmed past Mars. Geometry matters. Earth was hidden by the sun, blind to the event. Mars, by contrast, was in the perfect position to see the flare. If Atlas was transmitting, Earth may not have been the target at all. Image 6, the halo. Perhaps the most eerie frame of all, the 6th image shows a faint secondary sphere around Atlas, a translucent halo glowing faintly in infrared. Analysts call it sphere within a sphere. Natural comets sometimes show halos of gas, but they dissipate quickly, unevenly. This halo was smooth, persistent, perfectly centered. To Loeb, it looked less like gas and more like a shell, an outer casing surrounding a core. If true, Atlas isn't just a body of ice. It's layered, structured. Image 7, the triangular shadow. The final image is the one that made headlines. In it, Atlas's surface glints with sunlight, but along the edge, a triangular shadow cuts sharply across the glow. A clean, geometric corner. Ice fractures jaggedly, shadows smear. This was different. A straight edge angled precisely, as though a structure beneath the surface had momentarily caught the sun. Taken individually, each anomaly could be dismissed. A flat edge could be an illusion. Radials could be artifacts. Pulses could be telescope noise. But taken together, 7 anomalies across 7 images, the case becomes far harder to explain away. Loeb himself is cautious. He avoids sensational words like spaceship or alien. Instead, NASA, meanwhile, has remained silent. No official statements, no technical rebuttals, no attempt to disprove the images. And for many, that silence speaks louder than any denial. Because if the images are real, then Atlas is not a comet. It is something else. Loeb's release doesn't just confirm suspicions. It legitimizes them. What began as whispers in encrypted forums is now on the desk of every serious astronomer in the world. And whether they admit it or not, the evidence is piling up. Atlas is not behaving like a rock. It is behaving like a system. And if that system flared deliberately toward Mars, then the implications are terrifying. Part 3. The implications. If Avi Loeb's 7 images are authentic, then 3I Atlas is not a comet. It is not an icy rock drifting by chance. It is something structured, something engineered. And the flare it unleashed near Mars wasn't an outburst of gas. It was a message. That conclusion, however unthinkable, has implications so vast they touch every corner of science, society, and philosophy. The first implication is targeting. The timing of the flare is everything. On October 3rd, 2025, Atlas passed within 18 million miles of Mars. Earth was hidden behind the sun. We couldn't see the flare directly, but Mars could. If this was a transmission, then we weren't the audience. Mars was. Why Mars? It could be coincidence, or it could mean Atlas wasn't trying to speak to us at all. Perhaps it was aimed at the planet itself, or at something already there. For decades, conspiracy theorists have whispered that Mars holds relics, ruins, anomalies, echoes of a lost civilization. NASA insists these are illusions. But if Atlas transmitted toward Mars, it lends those whispers new weight. Was Atlas acknowledging something waiting on the red planet? The second implication is surveillance. Atlas's path is too precise to be natural. It brushed past Mars, swung by Jupiter, and will leave the solar system forever. A comet shouldn't be this clean, this deliberate. Loeb argues its trajectory looks like reconnaissance, a flyby tour, gathering gravitational, atmospheric, and magnetic data from the inner planets. In this interpretation, Atlas is a probe, not here to stay, just here to scan, record, and report. The third implication is communication. The pulsing intervals in Loeb's flare images aren't random. They match prime number ratios. In SETI, primes are the universal handshake. If you want to prove intelligence, you use math. If Atlas pulsed primes, then it wasn't venting ice. It was speaking. The problem is, we don't know if we were meant to hear it. The message may not have been for us at all. It may have been a status update sent outward, a beacon confirming arrival. Not hello. Did it wait, orbiting silently until the right moment? Or has it passed before, hidden by the sun, slipping through unnoticed? If it's a repeating visitor, then human history may have unfolded under its silent watch. We wouldn't have known until now. The fifth implication is the dark forest. If the galaxy is a silent forest full of hunters, then staying hidden is survival. In that framework, Atlas isn't friendly. It isn't waving. It isn't here to chat. It's cloaked in ice, disguised as a comet, observing quietly. Only when it flared did it reveal itself. Not to us, but to someone else. Perhaps its creators. Perhaps other probes. Perhaps something we don't yet understand. The sixth implication is denial. NASA's silence on Loeb's images speaks volumes. If the data were fake, they'd debunk it. If it were wrong, they'd show why. Instead, they say nothing. For some, this is proof of a cover-up. For others, it's strategy. If Atlas is artificial, then acknowledging it could trigger panic. Religion, politics, even national security would convulse. Easier, perhaps, to keep calling it a comet. But the images exist. The flare existed. The modulation existed. And ignoring them doesn't make them go away. The seventh implication is perspective. If Atlas is artificial, then we are not the first intelligence to reach into this solar system. We are not alone. And worse, we are not unobserved. The question shifts from, are we alone, to who is watching? Loeb's 7 images don't prove Atlas is alien technology, but they push the probability so high that the natural explanation begins to look like denial. Too many edges, too many grids, too many pulses. And so we are left with a choice. Do we accept Atlas as a comet, even though it behaves like no comet ever recorded? Or do we accept the alternative, that it is a probe, a system, a message hidden in plain sight? Loeb ended his release with a line that cuts through the noise. When nature doesn't add up, we should have the courage to consider other possibilities. Other possibilities. If he is right, then Atlas has confirmed what we suspected since Oumuamua first slipped by in 2017. Interstellar visitors may not be accidents. They may be scouts. And if scouts are here, then so are their senders. Like and subscribe for more stories from the edge of reality.